So I can't even remember how this started, but I started to get interested in what is a high-performing organisation. Have you looked at this or heard this before? We've been to talks about this, many nods. Okay, I won't labour it. But whether you're talking about a football team or a Formula One team or a bank or a retail chain or a hospital, there are some fundamental attributes as to how it's organised and its culture which enable you to classify it and see whether it's high performing or not. And outcomes will demonstrate that it is. And if you think about these in a hospital, you can see where I'm starting to go with this. So these high-performing organisations, they have clear values and objectives. It's very clear what they're there to do, and everybody signs up for it. And it's discussed, and they actually measure regularly how they're achieving those outcomes or vision. Now, I want to just pause here for a minute, because there is no doubt that every one of us in the room, we're all dedicated healthcare professionals and we want good patient care. So at a hospital level, this isn't usually a problem. But it's interesting because when you start getting at an executive table, or you start talking with groups of clinicians, or you start wanting to change things, people bring unspoken value sets to the table which you sometimes don't understand, or if you're not thinking about them, you won't be able, you won't understand the dynamic of the conversation and where it's likely to lead. So I'll pick an example which is purely random and is not meant to be a reflection on anybody in my hospital or any hospital that I know. But if you've got general medicine and gastroenterology and respiratory around the table, and you're trying to determine which patients might go into an acute medical unit and which might go to a specialty unit, and how their on-call services are going to work, and training and all that sort of stuff, it's pretty clear we all want better patient outcomes, and that's okay. But what you're not getting is that the gastro-headed department, even subliminally or subconsciously, is thinking, yeah, but I've got to make sure I maintain my funding base. I don't want to have less trainees. If I have less admissions, they're going to take staffing away. I can't do that. And that's an unspoken value set that you've got to understand in advance. You have to be clear about what value you're seeking. I love surprise and delight. So who's got an iPhone or a smartphone? Right, you've all got them, right? Right. Can you remember the first time you ever saw one? You might not even have bought one yet, but can you remember the first time you ever saw it? You went, wow. Exceeded your expectations. Fantastic. We should be doing that for our fellow staff and for patients. I ran into somebody very tangentially. It might have been at a school function. And they said, you work at that hospital. I was in the emergency department with my kid, my teenage son, a few months ago. And they said it was absolutely superb. We had a fantastic experience, Do you know what really impressed them? The people about their stay in our emergency department, they said, we were there on a weekend after hours. We could see that it was incredibly busy, but it was relatively quiet, it was orderly, and it was meticulously clean. They said we could have eaten off the floor. And that might seem a funny thing to say about an emergency department, but think about it. If you get on a clean aeroplane, or you go to somewhere, and get a service, and it's spotless, it gives you confidence. And they were surprised and delighted by that. Just recently we had some success with the 4-hour program. And I have delegated much of the program work to an individual. And we did a particular thing where we wanted to sort of change a process sustain it and get a better result. And we achieved it. And after 2 weeks, it exceeded our expectations. And I wrote to the executive group and I said, look, I'm just really, really pleased that it's gone so well. But we need to sustain this work. It's very hard work keeping where it is now. We need to sustain it and make it part of normal business. And, you know, how are we going to do that? Can you come up with a plan? And, you know, can we do that piece of work? And it went to a wide group of people, and the person who I've sort of made accountable for delivery, if you like, the medical director, wrote back one line to me. Because I said, we need a plan for the whole year. Do you know what he wrote? He wrote, "Don't worry, Frank, leave it to me." That's fantastic. I mean, this is a guy stepping up and, you know, and saying, I've got it. That surprised and delighted me. You know, that is fantastic. But that's creating that kind of culture. I once had a head of department come and see me about something. No, I asked him to come and see me and about something relatively transactional, and he was a bit nervous. I don't think he even sat down in the office. He just stood there at the door. And I said, oh, da-da-da, that's fine. And then he turned around and was half leaving. He said, oh, is there anything else you'd like me to do for you? And again, that was about 6 months ago. Surprise and delight. Fantastic. He would surprise me you know, about taking the next step. So if you start to surprise and delight your colleagues, they will do it back. And they'll start doing it for patients. So that's why I put that out. You need devolved leadership and decision making. You need very clear lines of accountability, roles and responsibilities. And we had managers and executive leads and divisional directors and heads of department, and none of them had a clue what they were actually meant to be doing. And realigning that and rebuilding that is not a trivial exercise, but you have to do it. You need to have absolute transparency around performance. You measure what you care about, and then you show everybody and you share it. And you go through 5 stages of grieving around data, as everyone does, but eventually you settle down and you say, yeah, that's the data and we need to do something about it. You need to make decisions based on that data, and you need to have an action-orientated culture. I'll give you 2 examples. Just in March, we expanded our acute medical unit. But we also had a challenge where we've demonstrated that our hospital's not quite as safe at night. So we wanted to make the hospital safer at night. We wanted to enlarge the AMU. But we also had an acute surgical unit that was off on a different floor and had a different staffing model, and it just didn't quite all gel. So a group of people got together. I wasn't in the room. And they came back and they said, we're going to convert the entire 5th floor of the hospital to a hot floor. We're going to have a larger acute medical unit and a larger acute surgical unit. All admissions are going to go to the hot floor. And we're going to have a different staffing model, so there's much higher seniority at night. And we've got better staffing. And we're going to involve intensive care so that if we have sick patients there, then we can manage that. And that is not and the 5th floor at the moment is a small acute medical unit and 3 medical wards, spread out over quite a large area at Royal Perth in a big brown brick building dating back to the 60s. So that's not a trivial exercise. Redesigning that, re-rostering people, rebuilding teams, you know, bigger AMU, different team. So, you know, that's a very, very difficult exercise. Well, they conceived of it in late March, might have even been the first week in April, and it was implemented on the 9th of June, finished, running. We did a similar exercise in late 2009. We made an executive decision that we needed to bring back to home wards. Kate will remember this, because we had outliers everywhere and we didn't have definite wards for different specialties, and it was all over the place. We said, no, we're going to do a bit of mathematics. We're going to work out how many beds everyone needs. We're going to conglomerate people into home wards. We're going to have staffing models around the wards and redesign that. And we mapped it all out, and we worked out that we're going to move surgery from that building into this building. We're going to throw respiratory from that floor onto this floor. We're going to put all geriatrics together in a different building on this floor. You know, so not a trivial exercise again. We made the decision to do it on the 8th of October 2009. And on the 6th of November the same year, so just over a month later, it was endorsed by the executive. And then there was a conversation about when we were going to do it. And everybody around the table said, oh, that's not trivial, that's going to take a while. Give us a year. Give us a year to plan and implement and do it. And doing something over a year to me sounds like not doing it at all. And so one or two of us pushed very, very, very hard to do it a bit more quickly. Anyway, I put my foot down as the role I had at the time and said, no, we're going to do it this way. And Kate had mapped it all out. And I got support really from only two other people around the executive table. There was a medical divisional director and the executive director at the time. And we decided we were going to do it on the 16th of January, in one day. 6 weeks later, Wednesday, the 16th of January 2010, we were going to move everything. And we did it. And it worked really well. And general medical length of stay dropped 3 days and stayed 3 days lower within 2 weeks by not having any outliers. Action-orientated culture. You need strong leadership and management training, but you need leadership training, and you need to find leaders, and I'm going to talk about that if I have time just towards the very end. And you need to plan for your future leaders. That's why I said some of you who are clinical leads around the table, you've got no idea what's coming. Someone's planning something for you, I'm sure.